When considering philosophy as a system, the isms represent belief structures that have existed since ancient times. In the earliest paradigm, we call this system religion. In that context, whatever people believed, even in the form of cults, was treated as religion. For instance, if a fish was observed to give birth to white offspring, a belief could emerge around it, and such a belief might develop into a religion. These religions did not necessarily require a prophet. The modern definition of religion, however, introduced a distinction. Any belief system without a prophet was labeled a cult. But in the primitive era, any belief itself was considered a religion. To believe that grass was alive was a religion. To revere the rabbit as a god was also a religion. Primitive religion was not just a set of doctrines but an entire way of life. What people believed and practiced shaped their daily existence. If they believed that mountains housed gods, then mountains indeed became sacred, deserving respect, and people acted accordingly in religious ways. But is a belief system, an ism, merely a belief, or is it a way of life? In fact, it is both, but at its heart, it is a way of life. In ancient times, people understood that nature followed certain laws. By recognizing and aligning with these natural laws, they could live in harmony with the world. From this, a core way of life emerged, and additional beliefs were layered onto it, shaping the details of daily practices and furnishing life with meaning. By the Middle Ages, belief had evolved into more structured forms, religions and cultic systems. Religion became formalized as religion, but even within religion, people continued to hold beliefs, the isms, which shaped their practices. This interaction between religion and belief gave rise to diverse traditions and sects, each developing its own way of life rooted in a combination of shared doctrines and individual beliefs. The ancient philosophers, regardless of their school or tradition, each lived according to their own distinctive way of life. In the modern era, the focus has shifted away from religion toward lifestyle. What matters most is how people choose to live their lives. Each individual has their own way of life, and there is an expectation that everyone should shape one for themselves. Rather than adhering strictly to religion, people now draw upon ideologies such as liberalism or Marxism to frame their choices. In this paradigm, lifestyle comes first, while ideologies, religions, or teachings are used afterward to justify and support that chosen way of life. For example, someone who enjoys gardening and cultivating trees might transform this passion into a meditation center. This illustrates the modern approach. People begin with themselves, their interests, and their priorities, and then seek out religions, ideologies, or teachings that align with their worldview. By contrast, in ancient and medieval times, people first determined which religion or ideology they believed in, and only then shaped their actions and way of life according to those principles. In the modern era, religion often still positions philosophy as its servant, much as it did in the Middle Ages, and even science is sometimes enlisted to serve religious ends. For instance, Friedrich Schleiermacher, 1768 to 1834, sought to reconcile reason, science, and religion into a unified framework. In the Middle Ages, such an approach would have been labeled as Hellenism. But in the modern context, shaped by the Enlightenment, this integration had to be reframed to remain relevant. Thus, it was interpreted in the form of liberal or natural theology, bearing similarities to neo-orthodoxy. In the modern paradigm, people are primarily concerned with their own way of life. They show little interest in or regard for the ways of life of others. This self-centered orientation means they do not care how long a temple, church, or mosque has stood, nor do they concern themselves with its rituals, prayers, or ceremonies. Such things are irrelevant to them unless they interfere with their own lifestyle. In that case, they will not tolerate it and will turn to the law as a means of protecting their right to live as they choose. In the postmodern paradigm, whatever people think or believe can be understood as a way of life, since each expression represents an attempt to move toward a better quality of living without the need for conflict or argument. Unlike the modern notion of lifestyle, this approach is more eclectic, mixing and matching elements from various traditions, whether ancient, medieval, or modern, and combining them into a lived practice. At its core, it emphasizes acceptance of difference, diversity, and tolerance of others' ways of life. Yet, if this eclecticism is left unchecked, it can lead to a dead end where personal or cultural identity dissolves. Thus, identity must still be cultivated and promoted, not in one fixed or absolute way, but by asking which practices genuinely contribute to a better quality of life and adopting those. For instance, in times of drought, Thai people may hold a rainmaking ceremony, sculpting clay figures and parading with a live cat as tradition dictates. But if concerns are raised about cruelty to animals, the practice can be adapted, replacing the live cat with cat dolls, thereby preserving the spirit of the ritual while aligning with contemporary values. A paradigm may be understood as the capacity to comprehend and to direct decision-making. It represents a mode of thought that frames both problems and the answers that are satisfying to those who live within it. When a paradigm shifts, people's attitudes toward many aspects of life also shift, producing a period of adjustment that shapes the development of global culture and civilization. At its core, a paradigm reflects the deepest concerns and satisfactions of the human mind, expressed through the kinds of questions it asks and the answers it finds fulfilling. Remarkably, when a paradigm shift arises in one part of the world, its effects often spread rapidly across all regions where human interaction takes place. Interpreting philosophy through the lens of paradigms enables us to continually make sense of different issues. Nothing truly disappears when a paradigm shifts. Rather, it is transformed and reinterpreted within the new framework. This is why we can still observe traces of all 5 paradigms in their entirety. Viewed this way, paradigms resemble a historical tapestry, as the philosophy of paradigm concerns the evolving attitudes, thoughts, and beliefs that develop alongside human civilization. To understand the present, we must look back at the past, examining how ideas and practices have been carried forward rather than assuming they have vanished. If everything from earlier paradigms had truly disappeared, we would not be able to revive ancient beliefs and practices in the modern era. While science often takes center stage, the real richness of human life lies in the diversity of traditions, worldviews, and practices, a diversity that paradigmatic philosophy is uniquely well suited to explore.